Today's story is one of the craziest cases to happen recently, where a group of young people were accused of creating a religious organization in their secret basement. But what went on downstairs was unlike anything anyone could imagine. It left a shock not only in America, but Korea as well. This is a bizarre story that still needs to go to trial, but the preliminary hearing was held and the details are out. And yes, I watched the entire 3.5 hours of the preliminary trial for you guys to condense all the information. And I think it was such an important story to tell you guys because there might be more victims and potentially organizations like this out there. I take a really long time to create these videos for you guys to let these informations out. So if you could just hit the like button, subscribing, and engaging in the comments all really help. And you guys have been commenting how great my skin's been looking. It's because I've been taking care of my gut health using this Colin Broom supplement. And you guys know sponsors really help to continue allowing mystery and true crime channels especially to run. I don't know about you guys, but my bowel movements are every 2 to 3 days. I just felt like my body wasn't pushing enough waste out of my body as it should. Colin Broom is a natural fiber source with psyllium husk. It helps to soften your stool, promote regular bowel movements, and help you gently flush out the waste from your guts. Because of more fiber intake, it also helps to reduce hunger and long-term energy intake, and as a result, it could also help you maintain your body weight. My favorite thing about Colin Broom is that they're sugar-free, gluten-free, vegan, and non-GMO digestive supplements. Helps reduce bloating, digestion, constipation problems, diarrhea. So there's just so much benefits for you to take in a lot of more fiber. They're having one of the biggest sale yet with up to 65% off their 6-month subscription. And on top of that, if you guys use my code, you get 10% off. And you guys just clicking and checking out the sponsors really help to continue running this channel. On September 12th, around 10:50 p.m., Gwinnett County Police in Atlanta, Georgia, arrived at the parking lot of a Korean-style sauna spa called Jeju. Now, this area is said to have a lot of Korean communities, so it's almost like a Koreatown. The police arrived there because someone reported that there was a deceased person inside of a vehicle. Later, they would find indeed this was true. And they found an Asian woman that looked to be around in her 20s or 30s. And it did take time identifying the woman because they did find that she was not an American citizen, but was an immigrant or a tourist. The shocking thing about this case is that when she was found, she weighed only about 70 pounds and she looked visibly malnourished. So now the police have to go through the tracks. The story goes that the person who called the police was the adopted father to a 26-year-old man named Eric. It is believed and later proven through CCTV that Eric was the driver of this vehicle where the deceased woman was found. And in the CCTV footages, you could see that Eric was the one driving the car, parking it at around 10 a.m. on the same day. After he parked the car, Eric actually went to the hospital for some injuries, and you could see on the CCTV visibly he struggles to walk, and we'll get into this in a bit. When Eric was getting his treatments inside of the hospital, it is still unknown what kind of injuries he exactly had, but he asked his adopted father to pick some of his belongings up from the car. So that night, the father would drive to the car, and the first thing he did was open the trunk. That's when he said he smelled a really, really bad odor and decided to call the police. Now, it is unclear if Eric did this on purpose, knowing that his adopted father was gonna find something in his car, or maybe he was so shaken up, didn't care, just asked him to pick something up and forgot that this person was inside of his trunk. And police started to interrogate Eric after his hospital visit. And that's when the crazy story started to unravel, and that he was part of a mysterious religious organization. Immediately, police was able to get a search warrant for a Lawrenceville home where the crime took place. Now, this was not Eric's home, but it is believed that Eric did spend quite a bit of time there, even living there at one point. This home is very big. It is actually in a pretty nice town. I mean, I call this a pretty luxurious town where this home was located. Now, there was a family living inside of this home, 54-year-old woman Mihi, her husband, and 3 of their kids living inside. These are the photos of inside of the house. It looks pretty normal. It looks really nice until you get to the basement. They found that there was like a mini church or a service area that they built. So this this is the basement, and it is split down in half, one part being like a room and the other part being like a mini church inside. When police got to the basement, they say that they heard loud Korean worship music being played repeatedly. I just thought that was a little creepy. There were obvious signs of a cleanup with a strong smell of cleaning supplies such as bleach, Febreze, chemicals, and they report that the carpet was wet, like it was recently cleaned. Chairs also had multiple punctures for some reason, and police say that they later were able to smell strong smell of decomposition after the Febreze and the chemicals odor went away. There were firearms found inside of the home, including in the garbage cans. There were blood stains in the cardboard boxes, tissues, duct tapes, and pajama pants that seemed to belong to the victim. It was enough evidence for the police to arrest the people that were living inside of the home as well, minus the father. He has not been arrested yet. And here are the alleged suspects: Eric Hyun, the man who was driving the car and went to the hospital, 26-year-old. Kawam Lee, also 26. Chunho David Lee, 26 years old, Chunhyum Isaac Lee, 22, Hyunji Lee, 25, and a juvenile that was part of the family. He was the youngest one inside of the house, 15 years old, and again, the mother, 54, she was arrested as well. So Isaac, David, and the juvenile are three brothers. Kawam is believed to be the cousin of the three brothers, and Hyunji was the girlfriend of Isaac Lee. All of them, minus Eric, lived inside of this house. And people seem to be shocked after seeing these photos because, especially people in Korea, they couldn't believe that they were Korean people, where the police were accusing them of being a gang. It took some time, but they were able to identify the victim, and she was a 33-year-old Korean citizen woman named SeHee Cho. It seemed like Mihi, the mother of the house, she and SeHee, the victim's mother, seemed to be friends since they were young. So they were not strangers. They knew each other from Korea. So far, it is known that SeHee herself apparently went through some kind of sadness in her life. Now, people believe that she might have gone through assault or something that made her go into sadness and really rely on prayers and religion. And SeHee and her mother both were religious as well. That's how they got to also know Mihi. Prior to arriving to America, they wanted to go in some kind of a religious fast. This was going to help them get closer to God, and Mihi invited them over to America to be part of their church. Now, both of them were only supposed to do about 3 days of fasting and prayers, but SeHee wanted to go through with some kind of a 40-day fasting prayer. Now, of course, the mother, she said that she had some work, she had to go back to Korea, so SeHee stayed at Mihi's house while the mother went back to America. Now, I do have to also note that I found that before SeHee and her mother came to America, ever since January, like a couple months back, there were messages coming back and forth from David and SeHee's mother. And David trying to somehow convince SeHee's mother that SeHee really needed this prayer session with them, that she needed to come to America to study, be there with them, be part of this church. So it seems like David wanted to recruit SeHee from months prior to her arriving to America. But she was to stay at Mihi's home, this house of horror, and pretty much study there and have a new life in America with them. It is also reported that SeHee did not have any money when she came. And apparently SeHee's mother was to compensate them later for her food, her stay, transportation, things like that. About $5,000 SeHee's mother was to compensate them. In the beginning, SeHee's mother says that she did have contact with the family, obviously because they've known each other for a while. But eventually, after she left, a couple days later, family would stop responding to her. And this is when we're gonna go into the details of what happened. The Soldiers of Christ, this is what they call themselves, this group, was apparently started by David only in January of this year. And the father of this house is a pastor and he owns another church somewhere in Georgia. We found videos of David in 2019 talking at a church, and he says some bizarre stuff. In his speech, he's saying that he's able to see demon spirits and he could pray to stop rain and kind of manipulate the weather. And when he started the SOC group, one of the things that people had to go through was like a military training. And he would train military style starting from his own brothers. And one of the most important tasks that this SOC group had to do was pray for 6 hours a day. So victim SeHee now was alone inside of this house. Her mother left, and that's when the training began to start. According to one of the members, once this orientation process initiation starts, there is no going back. Now in the orientations, apparently she was shown what she had to do, which included intense fasting, military style training, which was exhausting exercises that they had to do, strict postures that they had to do, like how to stand, how to sit, praying 6 hours a day, chores. Also, you can only use the bathroom 2 times a day. And if you had to go more than that, they were to give you a bucket, and you were strictly monitored. If you do not follow these rules, you would go through, again, punishments. Phone text messages from the suspects show that they called SeHee, the victim, number 5. So they called them by numbers. And the messages also showed conversations between David and other members of SOC. And he claimed that the victim was possessed by the devil. And that's why she had to go through a very, very intense initiation. Messages also further showed that during the orientation, apparently she ran upstairs in her underwear and asked the father, the pastor of the house, that she wanted to leave and stop the orientation. So it seems like from what we gather that she already was going through some kind of punishment, that she had to run upstairs in her underwear to say, stop, I don't want to go through this. The messages also show that the victim tried to contact someone on her end of the phone to try and get help because, quote, it says that she was held against her will and wanted this person to call the police, and even sent this person her address and where she was. Now, police are still looking into who she contacted, who this person is, why the help didn't come. Was she able to message this person fully or not? That's unsure. But remember, this is a Korean woman. She probably doesn't speak English. She doesn't know exactly where she is. She doesn't know how to get transportation. She has no money, and she claimed herself that she was taken against her will. The text messages also showed and proved that the victim tried to escape multiple times, and this apparently caused a fight between Isaac, one of the sons, and the father, the pastor. We don't know what happened to this fight, or if the father really tried to stop this orientation, or if he knew what was going on exactly or not. And here's the proof of what happened to her, because this was all documented in the SOC members' phone, videos, photos, and their video camera.
Alleged felony murder against the juvenile. Based on what?
He admitted to partaking in the recruitment process, as well as which included some of the physical beatings and tasks. And all of these actions, while committing the felony of false imprisonment, led to the death of SeHee Cho.
In one video, Carter said,
she was standing on her head halfway. She was being whipped with what appeared to be a belt.
Carter said the woman, 33-year-old SeHee Cho, had just moved here from Korea on July 21st on a religious quest, seeking a better life that she thought she would find with soldiers of Christ. And the suspects withheld food from her.
Again, police say that she looked visibly very weak. And some other crazy details and some more to come. And you guys could actually watch the full preliminary hearings down in the description box. I'll link it. And eventually they even found photos and videos of the victim passed away inside of their basement. Again, this was proof that somebody knew that she was deceased, and she was wearing that same pajama pants that they found in the garbage can. The basement windows was also covered by newspaper. It also indicated that they wanted nobody to see what was going on inside. It seems like everybody did have some kind of a role and almost a hierarchy as well. From the phone records, it showed that the SOC members called Eric number 4, and he seemed to be like the lower tier in this group, like he was made to do kind of the dirty work. A source from South Korea states that one of the reasons why Eric lived at Lee's house at one point in his life was because he did not have a great relationship with his adoptive parents. He did move back eventually. He was the one who picked her up from the airport. He was also in charge of staying with her in the basement so that she could not leave. He would also get messages from the other members and how he needed to keep her quiet in case that any guests, such as plumbers as well, well were coming inside of the house, and police found that mostly it was also Mihi, the mother of the house, who gave instructions to do all of this. And finally, he was also in charge of taking care of the deceased victim's body. Hyunji was assigned to do chores around the house. According to some of the members, most of the members had to go through this orientation process. Kawon, the cousin, and apparently he didn't have to go through this harsh initiations because, quote, he was pure at heart and that's what the Lord told them. So it could be that this orientation process and the initiations maybe had to do something with them trying to get rid of people's sins and trying to cleanse them, trying to make them whole and pure again. Police are still trying to look into what the whole purpose of this SOC group was, because according to the definition, a lot of the times gangs or organizations, they usually have a purpose or goal, such as stealing money, stealing property, something. But it seems like, according to the SOC members, when they were asked what was the purpose of this group, they could not give them a straight answer, but claimed that David was the one who received instructions from God. He was able to talk to God and the Lord, and their main task was to just listen to the word of God. And they were also in the process of trying to recruit another female member from some college, which is interesting because if it was a recruitment process, we're wondering why did they document all of this, like photos and videos, right? And again, according to the father, the pastor, he's the only one who's not arrested in this family, and he's trying to defend his kids, saying, you know, if it was something criminal that they did, why would they take photos and videos of it? And we'll get to what the defense is in a bit. But interviewing the people around them, the neighbors and friends who knew Lee's family, they were shocked that this family was so friendly, so praising of God. They had this like perfect life, living in a big house in America, and some of them are in denial. They're like, I think the police are charging them with such a strict crime because like they don't understand the Korean system, or that there is some kind of misunderstanding, because these kids, they just cannot imagine this family doing something like this. But according to some of the neighbors that lived in that town, they say, quote, I knew who they were. They were a very standoffish family. They kept it to themselves. I would pass them on the street walking and they wouldn't even look at me. They were that kind of neighbor. So could it be that they were living a perfect double life? Going into the autopsy, so far claimed that one of the cause of the death could be malnourishment, and they did rule it as a homicide. They also cannot determine the exact date of when she might have passed, but they do believe that it could be sometime in late August. So about only a month since she arrived in America. Mihi, the mother, was the last to be arrested, and during the interrogation, at first she lied to the police, saying that she thought that SeHee went back to Korea. And in the text messages, it proved that she also was the one to order the cleanup. The new twist is that Eric claimed that he was also a victim, to this extreme initiation. And that could be one of the reasons why he went to the hospital due to this harsh initiation, because he was number 4. According to Eric, he says that this initiation and orientation process was a very scary one and went through pretty much similar things to what the victim SeHee went through. Eric's defense also claimed that the Lee's family maxed out his credit card to purchase another house to build another church. He was also denied food during this initiation process, and when he went to the hospital, he visibly was in a state where he couldn't walk. Although right now, of course, the prosecutors are arguing that he did partake in this. Phones show that he was ordered to take care of the body. He Googled how to handle someone after passing, maintaining body temperature, and etc. Now, this is going to be later argued whether he was made brainwashed to do this or not, but he was the only one out of the 7 people arrested granted bail under $100,000, and he has to wear an ankle monitor and have 0 contact with the Lee family. It's really crazy because Eric is said to have graduated from a very good college school, and he was loved by many people who worked with him and knew him, that he was such a kind boy, and they don't know how he even got involved in this. There's a new interview with the pastor, Father Lee, and he's trying to point the blame at Eric, saying that he was the only one who was left in the basement with her. They don't know what happened to her after they stopped the orientation. A new witness came forward saying that she actually went through something similar to what the victim went through in 2021. She says that she went to America to study and stay with Mihi, the Lee's family. She was made to do chores, and when she didn't do the chores correctly, she actually was made to switch her room with Eric, who was living in the basement at the time. Now she had to use the basement where this mini church that they built. That's where also ironically punishments would happen. In the preliminary hearing, this is what the alleged suspects, the defense, claim. Now, what it seems like they're trying to argue so far is that SeHee, the victim, she voluntarily went through this, that she was not held against her will, or at least that there's not enough evidence so far. This was her willingly wanting to give herself to the Lord. They also mentioned that the police do not have evidence of a lock, so how can she be held against her will? But the judge pointed out that you can't keep someone against their will through verbal and physical threats. That doesn't have to be a physical lock to keep somebody in prison. Also, remember, Eric was the one who was ordered to stay down there with her. So who knows, maybe you don't need a physical lock. You could have had somebody there, made them so weak, physically weak, mentally weak, that she could not physically escape anymore. The state is charging them with gang activity, which by definition, it is more than 3 people. They're also charged with false imprisonment, concealing a death, and some other things. Professionals say that even though you might voluntarily join a group organization, that's kind of how cults work. They recruit you under the pretense that they're going to take care of you, where now that you're in this group so deeply that you're subject to all these things to make you believe that you are doing it for God or religious purpose. And also in the preliminary trials, it seems like the defense is going to argue that they were all doing this because they were hearing orders from God directly. So it's like not their fault. That this was all for a religious purpose and that they had no evil intent to try and murder someone intentionally. Now, in my personal opinion, what's going on here, according to some of the other cases that I've studied, one of the possibility could be that this family has a shared psychosis disorder. Hence the reason why the mother, David, they say that they start to hear words from God and orders from God. And then now the whole family was in it, and now they recruited other people. And nobody in the members outside of the family as well, including Eric and Kawan, nobody called the police. And it is something that needs to be talked about. So somebody that is so deep in this, they might not think that it is criminal, that it's illegal, that it is negative, that we need to help somebody recognize that not everything in the name of God is going to help you. So hopefully this story will help other people to realize and recognize maybe some other cults or organizations or groups that are in the making or that's happening, and report it to the police, knowing that this is not morally right. Remember to leave your thoughts down in the comments, and to support this channel, remember to leave a thumbs up and check out today's partnership, Colin Broom. Thank you guys so much for watching.